Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abdullah bin Bahana. Allah's Messenger once led us in a prayer and offered 2 rakat and got up, for the 3rd rak'ah, without sitting, after the 2nd rak'ah. The people also got up with him, and when he was about to finish his prayer, we waited for him to finish the prayer with taslim, but he said takbir before taslim and performed 2 prostrations while sitting and then finished the prayer with taslim. Sahih al-Bukhari 1224 Reference 22 Hadith 1. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abdullah bin Bahana. Allah's Messenger got up after the 2nd rak'ah of the Zuhr prayer without sitting in between the 2nd and the 3rd rak'at. When he finished the prayer, he performed 2 prostrations of sahoo, and then finished the prayer with taslim. Sahih al-Bukhari 1225 Reference 22 Hadith 2. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abdullah. Once Allah's Messenger offered 5 rakat in the Zuhr prayer, and somebody asked him whether there was some increase in the prayer. Allah's Messenger said, "What is that?" He said, "You have offered 5 rakat." So Allah's Messenger performed 2 prostrations of sahoo after taslim. Sahih al-Bukhari 1226 Reference 22 Hadith 3. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet led us in the Asr or the Zuhr prayer and finished it with taslim. Dhul Yadain said to him, "O Allah's Messenger, has the prayer been reduced?" The Prophet asked his companions in the affirmative. So Allah's Messenger I offered 2 more rakat and then performed 2 prostrations of sahoo. Sa'di said, I saw that Urwa bin Az-Zubair had offered 2 rakat in the Maghrib prayer and finished it with taslim. He then talked, and when he was informed about it, he completed the rest of his prayer and performed 2 prostrations, and said, "The Prophet prayed like this." Sahih al-Bukhari 1227 Reference 22 Hadith 4. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abu Hurairah. Once Allah's Messenger offered 2 rakat and finished his prayer. So Dhul Yadain asked him, "Has the prayer been reduced or have you forgotten?" Allah's Messenger said, "Has Dhul Yadain spoken the truth?" The people replied in the affirmative. Then Allah's Messenger stood up and offered the remaining 2 rakat and performed taslim, and then said takbir and performed 2 prostrations like his usual prostrations, or a bit longer, and then got up. Sahih al-Bukhari 1228 Reference 22 Hadith 5. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Salama bin Alqamah. I asked Muhammad peace be upon him, bin Sirin, whether Tashahhud should be recited after the 2 prostrations of sahoo. He replied, "It is not mentioned in Abu Hurairah's narration." Sahih al-Bukhari 1228b Reference 22 Hadith 6. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet offered one of the evening prayers. The sub-narrator Muhammad peace be upon him said, I think that it was most probably the Asr prayer, and he finished it after offering 2 rakat only. He then stood near a price of wood in front of the mosque and put his hand over it. Abu Bakr and Umar were amongst those who were present, but they dared not talk to him about that, because of excessive respect for him, and those who were in a hurry went out. They said, Has the prayer been reduced? A man who was called Dhul Yadain by the Prophet said to the Prophet, Has the prayer been reduced or have you forgotten? He said, Neither have I forgotten, nor has the prayer been reduced. He said, Certainly you have forgotten. So the Prophet offered 2 more rakat and performed taslim and then said takbir and performed a prostration of sahu like his ordinary prostration or a bit longer and then raised his head and said takbir and then put his head down and performed Sahih al-Bukhari 1229 reference 22 Hadith 7. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer, a prostration like his ordinary prostration or a bit longer, and then raised his head and said takbir. Sahih al-Bukhari 1229 reference 22 Hadith 7. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Abdullah bin Bahana al-Azdi sad face. The ally of Bani Abdul Muttalib. Allah's messenger stood up for the Zuhr prayer and he should have sat after the second rak'ah, but he stood up for the third rak'ah without sitting for tashahhud. And when he finished the prayer he performed 2 prostrations and said takbir on each prostration while sitting, before ending the prayer with taslim. And the people too performed the 2 prostrations with him instead of the sitting he forgot. Sahih al-Bukhari 1230 reference 22 Hadith 8. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's messenger said, when the call for prayer is made, Satan takes to his heels passing wind so that he may not hear the adhan, and when the call is finished he comes back, and when the iqamah is pronounced, Satan again takes to his heels, and when the iqamah is finished he comes back again and tries to interfere with the person in his thoughts and say, remember this and that, which he has not thought of before the prayer, till the praying person forgets how much he has prayed. If any one of you does not remember whether he has offered 3 or 4 rakat, then he should perform 2 prostrations of sahu while sitting. Sahih al-Bukhari 1231 reference 22 Hadith 9. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's messenger said, when any one of you stands for the prayers, Satan comes and puts him in doubts till he forgets how many rakat he has prayed. So if this happens to any one of you, he should perform 2 prostrations of sahu while sitting. Sahih al-Bukhari 1232 reference 22 Hadith 10. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Quraib. I was sent to Aisha by Ibn Abbas, Al-Miswar bin Makramah and Abdur Rahman bin Azar. They told me to greet her on their behalf and to ask her about the offering of the 2 rakat after the Asr prayer and to say to her, we were informed that you offer those 2 rakat and we were told that the Prophet had forbidden offering them. Ibn Abbas said, I along with Umar bin al-Khattab used to beat the people whenever they offered them. I went to Aisha and told her that message. Aisha said, go and ask Salama about them. So I returned and informed them about her statement. They then told me to go to Salama with the same question with which he sent me to Aisha. Salama replied, I heard the Prophet forbidding them. Later I saw him offering them immediately after he prayed the Asr prayer. He then entered my house at a time when some of the Ansari women from the tribe of Bani Haram were sitting with me. So I sent my slave girl to him, having said to her, stand beside Sahih al-Bukhari 1233 reference 22 Hadith 11. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer him and tell him that Salama says to you, O Allah's messenger, I have heard you forbidding the offering of these 2 rakat after the Asr prayer, but I have seen you offering them. If he waves his hand, then wait for him. The slave girl did that. The Prophet beckoned her with his hand and she waited for him. When he had finished the prayer he said, O daughter of Bani Umayyah, you have asked me about the 2 rakat after the Asr prayer. The people of the tribe of Abdul Qais came to me and made me busy and I could not offer the 2 rakat after the Zuhr prayer. These 2 rakat that I have just prayed are for those missed ones. Sahih al-Bukhari 1233 reference 22 Hadith 11. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Sahl bin Sa'di as Sa'idi. The news about the differences amongst the people of Bani Amr bin Auf reached Allah's messenger, and so he went to them along with some of his companions to effect a reconciliation between them. Allah's messenger was delayed there, and the time of the prayer was due. Bilal went to Abu Bakr and said to him, Allah's messenger has been delayed there, and the time of prayer is due. So will you lead the people in prayer? Abu Bakr said, Yes, if you wish. Bilal pronounced the Iqamah and Abu Bakr went forward and said Takbir for the people. In the meantime Allah's messenger came crossing the rows of the praying people, and stood in the first row, and the people started clapping. Abu Bakr would never glance sideways in his prayer, but when the people clapped much he looked back and Allah's messenger beckoned him to carry on the prayer. Abu Bakr raised his hands and thanked Allah, and retreated till he reached the first row. Allah's Messenger Sahih al-Bukhari 1234 reference 22 Hadith 12. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer went forward and led the people in the prayer. When he completed the prayer he faced the people and said, O people! Why did you start clapping when something unusual happened to you in the prayer? Clapping is only for women. So whoever amongst you comes across something in the prayer should say, Subhanallah, for there is none who will not turn round on hearing him saying Subhanallah. O Abu Bakr! What prevented you from leading the people in the prayer when I beckoned you to do so? Abu Bakr replied, How dare the son of Abu Qafa lead the prayer in the presence of Allah's messenger? Sahih al-Bukhari 1234 reference 22 Hadith 12. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Asma. I went to Aisha and she was standing praying and the people, too, were standing, praying. So I said, What is the matter with the people? She beckoned with her head towards the sky. I said, Is there a sign? She nodded, intending to say, Yes. Sahih al-Bukhari 1235 reference 22 Hadith 13. Sahih al-Bukhari. Forgetfulness in prayer narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. Allah's messenger during his illness prayed in his house sitting, whereas some people followed him standing, but the Prophet beckoned them to sit down. On completion of the prayer he said, The Imam is to be followed. So, bow when he bows, and raise your head when he raises his head. See Hadith number 657 Volume 1 for taking the verdict. Sahih al-Bukhari 1236 reference 22 Hadith 14.